Here we go. Ciao, Frederick. Hello.
Hello, Mirko. How you doing?
Good. Vibing with Barcelona. Although it's like getting incredibly weird because it's raining a lot in this during these days. Like a lot of like raining and stuff. So the city itself has some problems with the flooding of stuff, and we had like never heard about it in Spain, to be honest.
Not used to it. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We also have we have your weather, so it's kind of nice outside. It's for end of October, really warm. You can be outside, do sports, go jogging at that today.
And
So reversed roles, so to speak.
should be like interesting. But in Germany, I will expect it. Are you in Germany, right? At the moment,
Yes, I'm in Munich, Germany.
Munich. Okay, I've been living there. Awesome. Let me take a look at the chat because I don't see many people. Weirdly interesting. Let me see whether there were some hopefully not issues with the live, and it's public. Okay. Cool, because we had 40 attendees and we are three, but anyway, uh, people should kick in hopefully soon.
Yes, I mean I think we changed the time a little bit, so maybe that was
Yeah,
that
but
is the
still,
reason.
we got like 40 folks lined up. So I mean, usually there is like around 50 to 60% uh, like showcase rate. But anyway, hey Omar, hey Joel, what's up, guys? Cool. Well, anyway, this is gonna be recorded, so I think it's fine getting started, and then people will join later on. No worries.
I mean,
Uh,
ideally, they're all not here because they found jobs, and it's all good.
I did this, yeah. I don't give a damn anymore. Or even worse, it's so impossible to get at least one
They gave
interview
up.
that I don't even know about how to handle them because I won't get them in the first place. That might be the issue.
No, it's not that bad. It's not that
Yeah,
bad.
it's not that bad. Well, look, Frederick, the calendar invite points to a landing page. Maybe people don't realize you have to join the session. Interesting. First time happening, so let me try to take a quick look at it
Yeah, sure.
because um, let me see. Yeah, there was a mismatch in between the platform and the time. There is like a little. All right, so guys, yes, it's in. There was a mismatch in between YouTube and Play Hard platform. So my bad, guys, because we changed the time on the platform, but YouTube didn't change accordingly. Like
Mm.
that's what happened, I guess. So let me, yeah, too late. I guess you can change it. Anyway, we people will watch it later on, eventually. So Frederick, thanks for being with us, and apologies for the little mixed up with the time being. Um, Today we're gonna talk about interviews, right? Like I guess you had many people looking, to join the companies you worked at, and you've seen a lot of folks around. So I was just wondering, basically, if you can get us like a super quick intro about who you are, what you do, and then talk a little bit about this. I don't know if it's felt as a intense moment of doing interviews. I personally quite
Oh,
enjoyed interviewing
oh,
when I was
really?
a
You're
candidate.
the 1%.
Yeah, I'm the 1% perhaps. I had my tons of fun. I mean, it depends. It depends on the company, but usually I liked it. But overall, I know that it's not that fun, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
depends on the circumstances. Like if you're really desperately need a job, then you're probably feeling a little bit more pressure than if you're sitting in your job comfortably and then you're interviewing on the side. But we're gonna be talking about this also a little bit later. So I can just kick it off, introduce myself just quickly. Hi, I'm Frederik. I'm currently in Munich, Germany, and I've been in the gaming industry for quite some time. I had my introduction into it as a journalist, writing B2B magazine, so not testing games, actually also testing games, but mostly writing about the industry. in Germany about the companies, about the business models, the marketing strategies, the people behind it. From then, I transitioned into the industry, so to speak, as a product manager, and was covering web games for a long, long time. Germany, I don't know if you know, that has a long and proud tradition of web games, browser games, and they even kind of came up with a free-to-play model as well. Funny story, maybe we get to it later, how that came to be with a young student that didn't have a means to pay for the servers that he was running a very successful game on. And then he would ask the players for money. And since it was only played in the dormitory, people would slip money under his door, actually cash. And that was the birth, so to speak, of the free-to-play model. If you
Like
want
the
to
very
be,
first interaction, I guess,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. So many years ago. And then I did a lot of stuff in that company, taking care of service departments, because I was working at Travian. Some people might know it. Specialty with Travian is it is a game, but it's also a company. It is a developer, it's a publisher, published lots of games in between running the main game. And yeah, then eventually I ended up managing the company as well, product part, marketing part, 3 dependent studios of that company, all games of it. And that was the part where I had all those interviews, I guess, like from the other side. Also worked at Remote Control Productions here in Munich, which is kind of a portfolio company, an advisor company. They own parts of other indie studios and then support them by being basically a counsel to them, helping them with business decisions they might have never had to face yet. Then it's kind of good if you had a kind of an advisor on your side.
Oh, that's interesting, if I
Yes.
may ask. I'm curious here because usually indie studios they don't have much money before they ship the game, and if the game is successful, then they can make it through.
Yeah.
Do you work with only funded indies, like indies that receive the funding round, or there is another way to basically receive your help before shipping the game?
Well, it depends. It all depends. So usually it's games, it's companies that have shipped one game, but we're more looking towards seeing what of kind of what the team is, the team composition is like the potential that is in that company. And then it really depends on where we see that this can go. We've had companies that have published like tons of games in the Middle East, and then we also had a company that never published a game. Fairly large companies, super small, one-person companies, where we guided them to the first launch. So this was RCP part of my career. Right now, I'm basically working on the stealth mode of a startup. So not much to say at the moment. The industry is changing quickly. Yes, but in that, let's see, 15 years plus, I have come across quite some situations and interviews. Applicants have been obviously applicant myself, and there's a lot to talk about, actually.
All right, and we can get started on that, I suppose. So let's make it general. Like you've seen many people. Basically, you recruited mostly like. Oh, we have a couple of questions already. So Omar, Scott, feel free to drop. Guys, these are an open session. So if you have questions, just drop them in the chat, and we're gonna go through them. But meanwhile, I would like to ask myself, what kind of profiles you hired for your studios and at which stage? So you were not the first touch with the candidate usually, or yes, like what was the like organization of the hiring process?
Yeah, no, normally not the first touch point. We never believed in like too many rounds. I think like 3 rounds is like a good maximum, maybe 4 if you have special circumstances. But 3 or 4 rounds will be great. So normally it's one, okay, just a basic check from HR. Is that person who they claim to be? Is it something wrong? Like just making sure this is all valid, like person still available. They say who they say they are. Actually, one time we had a mishap there because we are obviously everything is done in English as well. But I was working at a German company, and it was a pretty high hire for a manager. For some reason, the first 2 rounds were completely in German because it was just a check mark on the CV. Yes, speaks English fluently, blah, blah, blah. And then in the 3rd round, I was talking to the candidate and then switched to English mid-sentence. Because if you're all German, there's really no point to switch to talk English initially. So I switched to English. Turned out the candidate wasn't able to keep up the conversation in English. So that was, I've never had that happen before. So I guess it's the first point. Like, everybody typically kind of paints themselves in a positive light or even embellishes stuff a little bit. And I think that's okay from a sales perspective. But obviously don't straight out lie, because it's you're going to just waste people's time. And
So yeah, that's very bad. It happened to me quite a lot of times, because let's say that Italy is not a country that is famous for their English speaking abilities. Italians tend to don't speak English much. And when I started out my career as a recruiter, I was not recruiting for games. I was recruiting for the pharmaceutical and chemical industry, mostly in Italy. And many companies that I worked with, they asked me to recruit people that were English speakers, like not super fluent, but at least able to have a conversation. And it happened to me many times, right? That you see in the CV like fluent or proficient, and then say, okay, just now, it's kind of a requirement. So would you mind having like a little short conversation? It's been a while that I don't practice it, right?
yeah.
Like that was the usual, like the usual thing. And
That's tough in
it was
gaming.
kind
Yeah,
of
that can be a real issue. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I see we have some questions. Like in general, my idea was to structure this a little bit and talk about phases, like stuff to do before you apply, then what to do to get noticed, then in the interview, and then stuff that happens after. But I would say we prioritize questions. So
let's go
Mirko,
for it.
you want to pick questions and
Yes,
shoot them my way?
sure. So, hello, Omar. Ciao, Omar. What does one need to do to stand out in your interior, and what goes overboard from there in trying to impress?
Yeah. So obviously, make sure you don't tell lies. That is going overboard. In general, American job market is a bit more salesy. Then you paint yourself in an even more positive and perfect light, and you have done everything and everything to perfection. Personally, I always look for kind of the human element. People admitting they didn't do something yet, but this is how they would do it, for example. In gaming, it's kind of, you have a track record, either you have a portfolio or you have games you worked on that you launched. So it's kind of hard to really overstate your case completely without any hard facts, without any hard evidence. But you do want to stand out. I mean, that is absolutely true. And how do you do that? So one point obviously is to prioritize quality over quantity when applying. So like not to apply to tens of studios a day or hundreds overall with the same application. I mean, maybe if you apply for a long time, you can reach those numbers, but every application obviously should be very individual, because this is the thing that you spot immediately when you're hiring. Because when you're hiring, you basically, you don't look for a person mostly. You have, as a company, an issue, a problem, and you're looking for that solution to that. So if you get presented with like a standard case or CV, somebody just describes how amazing they are, you believe them. Yes, you're an amazing guy, but I don't need an amazing guy. I need a solution to my problem. And this is why you look at that company, you look at the job ad, obviously, you do some research before that. And then you show them that you understood their issue, their problem, and that you are the solution to that. And if you do some of that, you already stand out.
That's a fantastic thing. Sorry if I'm gonna monopolize the stream for 2 minutes, but I wanted to show you one thing because this really, really resonates with me. So, long story short, I wrote a book on how to find a job in games, but even more in general, other stuff that hopefully is gonna be released by the end of the year.
So why are you interviewing me? I should be interviewing you.
No, 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 no. But I'm like, that's my point of view, right? I was
Yeah.
about basically to share that there is an entire chapter of the book which is job hunting approaches, and one of the most important thing that I feel like I learned along the way by being both on the candidate side and on the recruiter side is that pretty much every company that I've worked with, they opened up the position because they have a business problem related to that role. Meaning, if you're scaling, so your company is doing great, it means that you need more people doing the job because the current headcount is not sufficient to guarantee the outcomes that the scaling business like needs are coming up with. So you need more people on board, and that's a business problem, and that's why you're hiring. Otherwise, if you're probably lost a person, like somebody left the company, so you need to replace them, and that's a business problem because if you don't have the person that does the job that the previous person was doing, you had clearly a production problem or a business problem. So it's always about, if I open up a role, it means that I have a problem that I need to fix. And the best way to showcase yourself is, how can my competencies, my skill set, my personalities, my connections, my network, every asset that I bring can fix the problem that the company is currently facing at the time they're hiring. And that's by far the best way to position yourself. So like it's
Absolutely.
kind of a strong take, but hearing from you is like, oh yeah, well, there is another person on the planet that actually thinks like me.
No,
So
absolutely. I mean, yeah, that all boils down to like positioning yourself or putting yourself in the shoes of the people hiring. And this is a reoccurring theme. You have to do that over and over again to kind of crack the code, so to speak, of a lot of the things, because some people don't do that. Some people just, yeah, want to showcase how amazing they are, and they maybe are, but that's not the task at hand. The task at hand is to put yourself in the shoes of those hiring people. As you said, obviously they are facing something, some situation. How can I be that solution? And that's another point. Like if you're looking at job ads, they can be quite long, like scrolling like through the description and the role and the yada yada yada. And there it is important not to treat all those points equally, because in my experience, the meat of the job ad is at the very beginning. Like first bullet point normally is, okay, we're looking for a senior engineer to be a senior engineer. But then point 3, 4, maybe 5, this is where the meat is. This is where they state their problem. And this is what you have to reply to first and foremost. And then you know how those job ads are created. They are written up by the person who has that problem, basically, and then they get sent around to other departments, and they add maybe bullet points, and HR adds bullet points, what that candidate needs to have, bring, do, be able to. But none of them are as critical as the ones really high up. And that's my advice, would be to identify those core things and focus on that with your application. Because nobody's gonna check all the marks and hit like all the things that are required there. But it's also not the goal. The goal for you, like a little riddle, is to find out what the issue is, identify it, and then speak to that problem and to that person behind that problem.
I love it. And lastly, I will add something even simpler. If you don't know how to position yourself for trying, or you want to impress the person that is interviewing you, always try to think it's never about me, it's always about them. How can I look at myself as someone that could be an interesting professional to them? It's always about them. How you write your CV is about them. How you write your cover letter, about them. How you handle the interview, it's always about them. Never think about you, always think about them. And put yourself in their shoulder. Why these people should hire me?
Exactly.
And that's the question that you
Yeah.
want to
Exactly. And thinking ahead, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that not every application of you is going to be successful. So you're going to get rejected, and that feels shitty. But the answer to handling that well is also here, because a rejection is not, they're not rejecting you. They're just saying it's a perceived miss between their problem and the options that you bring to the table and your solution, basically. So if that doesn't match for them, this is not a sentence or not a statement about you. It's just a statement about how well it matches. And that's important to keep in mind if you get like 1, 10, 20, 40, whatever rejections, to not letting that get to you. It's just like you haven't found that fit yet. So,
and on top, by definition, this doesn't really mean that you are by definition like not a match for that company. Is the perception that the people interviewing you have, which is
Yeah,
very different, right?
yeah,
You may be the
yeah,
most skilled person for the job, but they may perceive that someone else is
yeah,
better, even
yeah,
though it's not true. Or perhaps they have better connections, or they're linked somehow, or they
yeah,
got referred. Like there are so many factors that kicked into hiring somebody, which is not purely, people hire people, and people, like,
yeah.
when you talk with people, there is always like a uncontrollable factor. So never take it personal. This is super important and such a nice advice.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's go to the next one. Scott, how would you advise getting into product management when a person hasn't had that exact title in the past? But if you can drop the last part of the question, Scott, we will try to answer it better. But we may try with this one. How would you guys advise getting into product management when okay, it's the same one. When I haven't had the exact same title in games.
Yeah, well, so that happened to me. So when I became product manager, I wasn't that before. I was an editor, and obviously this requires the company hiring to be open for that. So you're not going to start as a senior PM or on a big product, but if they're open, if this is a junior position, then basically it is important in the interview to always voice out your thoughts, because they don't want to hear solutions. They want to hear how you approach a problem. And especially if you're a junior, it's very likely that you haven't faced that problem before. So you cannot tell, normally in my wide and long PM career, I've been doing this, because it's you're new to that and they know that. So just voice out your thoughts. And this is something almost like an exercise you can do beforehand. You can practice speaking what you think, because this is what they want to find out. They want to find out how you think, how you analyze things, what's important to you, what things you maybe pick up, what thoughts and then cast aside, what you focus on. And that can be really of help. And then it's just a matter of, do you understand the game? Do you understand the industry? Do you understand the levers that you have as a PM that you can pull to influence the product? You know how important it is to connect the various departments working on a product, that you are kind of in the middle of a thick net of communications as a product manager, and that you are ultimately, personal opinion, the representative of the game. So you're the voice of the game as a PM, because it doesn't have a voice. It just has a lot of people wanting things from it. Monetization department wants money, and then the developers want more time and less bugs, and the graphic artists want it to look better. But you have to be basically the personification of the game and get that thought across. I mean, that worked for me, at least.
Absolutely. Also about myself, my first job was recruitment. I was a recruiter. I wanted to be a gaming recruiter, but I didn't manage to find a gaming recruiter gig. So I started recruiting in a different industry. This led me to a sales job into a tech company, which I took because first it was in Dublin where Blizzard was. So I was like, all right, I'm getting close to my dream company and I can give it a shot. And on top was tech, which by definition is closer to games than pharmaceutical industry. And weirdly, that job led me to my gaming recruiter job. So it's super, super possible to start with the same job title and move into games. And actually, given the gaming industry, like let's say perspectives and trends right now, this is something that I would actually recommend, especially for juniors. Employment rate for juniors people, so people with 0 to 2 to 3 years of experience, uh, it's very hard to get a job in games right now. Like employment rate is at 5 to 7%, if I'm not mistaken. Meaning that if you want a job, you are quite, I wouldn't say forced, but strongly advised to also look elsewhere and then join games later on. So, especially if you're getting started right now, definitely consider working in a different industry. And it is completely possible to then join games afterwards. For a simple fact of transferable skills, which is we are not going to get through that because it's a big topic. But short answer, yes, it's possible, and I actually recommend it. If you're not finding a job in games, simply look elsewhere. Should I keep going with the questions, Frederik? Can I?
Yeah, maybe take one more, and then there was a remark or a question to run through the structure, because there's one or two points which I wanted to touch on to make sure everybody has heard them at least once. So why don't we take one more question, and then I'll go through some points.
Let's go. So, Kritik, ciao Kritik. I have a question. When we reach a technical round, let me say hypothetically, if I get rejected, why companies do share the solution or a PDF doc on how an answer should be presented? So basically, I go to the tech interview, the hiring manager interview. I get rejected, and why companies don't explain how should I answer?
Well, because then I can't use that question anymore, would be the obvious answer. Because then it's out there, or maybe the question is, why don't they disclose it to the applicant? I think there would be the same. Everything is very public and connected right now. People will post it on Reddit, and then a lot of time goes into the preparation of those questions. And then I think that, from my point, from a hiring perspective, that will be the main point why I don't disclose this. I can totally see that this is kind of sucky for an applicant if you're working on that problem, and then it for some reason wasn't, they didn't deem it good enough or whatever, and then they won't share that solution for you to learn. I mean, there's other places like coding challenges and stuff like that where you can learn and where you can get the solutions, obviously. Yeah, I mean, but for that very specific question, why they don't share that, what you can always do is beforehand take the opportunity and ask more general questions, like if they can advise on how that should be presented. Obviously not the answer, but like the format, or if they value certain points or certain aspects more than others, what I should pay attention to. And asking questions during the whole process is highly recommended. Like even before maybe sending your CV, maybe there's a person there on LinkedIn, and you hit them up, you connect. They state, even, if you have any questions, reach out and do that. I mean, they're not joking about this. This puts you in a good spot, because you might get information other applicant doesn't have. It shows them that you are very invested and interested, and actually this is not like one of 100 applications for you, but you take the time to write to that hiring person. So that is, it can only go well for you. I mean, worst case is they say no, or they say, well, I don't have that answer for you. Yeah, it takes some courage sometimes to just talk to people online, even if you haven't done that before, or you don't want to mess up because it's a possible future employer. But I've never seen people messing up by asking questions, honestly. Yeah,
I always recommend it. I mean, people know I'm the networking guy. Like, always push folks to give it a shot, because to me it's very simple. You have just two scenarios. Best case scenario, you gain a shot at whatever you want to go for. Can be a mentorship, can be an interview, can be whatever, a CV review, whatever you're asking. Worst case scenario, either they say no because I don't have time, if you ask politely, or they don't respond, which means nothing, because you're exactly as you were before. So you had literally nothing to lose and anything to gain. So just go for it. And to answer the question, Kritik, another very simple reason is time efficiency, because sadly, the hiring process is expensive. It involves a lot of people. And please correct me if I'm mistaken, Frederik, it usually involves also managers and direct and leadership. And the time spent on the interview could be spent on the business, generating revenue and money. So any minute spent on the hiring process is a minute that the company decide to invest on that specific process instead of making money, right? Like on a very broad perspective. So imagine creating like a personalized PDF for every single applicant. It will take a lot of time, and it will not simply be possible. Yeah, what sometimes happened, or at least what I always try to do when I was recruiting for a company, I wasn't giving a personalized feedback to all the people before the interview. So for example, if I post an ad and I receive 100 CVs, I won't send 97 emails saying, hey, you're not getting the interview. But to the ones that I interviewed, I always try at least to give them like a 5 minutes phone call to say, hey man, like you didn't get the job because blah blah blah, if
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had the chance. But it was my approach.
Mm.
Sometimes it's not always
Yeah,
possible.
and then that's also a little bit investment into the reputation of the company, because people exchange on Glassdoor and on those sites, and if they have a interview experience that sucked, they're gonna let the company know
Yeah.
that, or the other people thinking about applying there. And to that, it's almost like a branding thing, but that how you go about rejecting people is a factor in that, and that won't help the applicant too much. Well, maybe a little bit to feel better, but it will actually help the company that other people see, okay, they're treating people with basic human respect, right? That's important.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so shall we? Oops, my bad. Okay. We wanted to touch a couple of points, right?
Yes.
Before going with the other questions.
Remind me of the how much time do we actually have left?
We are halfway through, 30 minutes.
Okay, we have 30 minutes. Okay, then it's great. Then let's do a quick rundown, and then we can take some more questions.
Okay.
And maybe this also triggers some more questions. So the phase before you apply, we talked a little bit about embellishment versus straight out lying. We talked about a little bit that you have to have a portfolio if you're into a job that requires those, as a dev, as an artist. So if you do that, obviously lead with your best work. If somebody hiring takes the time to look at that stuff, it needs to be really clearly presented, like your best work up front, maybe a README. If you do it on, if you're a dev, do it on GitHub. Like, what am I looking at here? Explain that a little bit. LinkedIn, from my perspective, becomes more and more important. You might like it or not, but you have to have a clear representation of your personal brand there if you want to use very big words. So just you have note clear skills that you have keywords in your bio, have a good headline, maybe a good image up front that tells people exactly which solution you're offering, in short, basically. The details, like make sure you have a decent email address. You don't need your own mail server, but get rid of that teenage email address that you made when you were 17 and you're still using. That's pretty self-explanatory, I think. But in general, a tip that's always good is that you need to think of your career all the time, not only when you're looking, but also when you're employed. This is about your career, about you personally, and this is about it all the time. So keep your stuff updated, keep connections warm, basically. This is the only thing you're essentially doing for yourself. Everything else is a job for a company that you will not be working until the end of your days. You're going to switch companies, but everything you do for your career stays with you. So getting noticed, next phase. You're ready, you have everything prepared, people can find you, know who you are. You have to get noticed, you have to stand out. The good news is, from my perspective, it might be a little bit easier right now than you think. Why is it? Because of AI. Because right now we're in that phase where everybody jumps on AI and jumps on ChatGPT and thinks they can solve their application problem for them. And my strong advice is to keep AI as far away from anybody hiring you as possible. What does that mean? Doesn't mean don't use AI. It means use it at the beginning of your funnel. Use it when you're researching the companies. Use it when you're learning about the people, maybe the industry, the markets, the trends, the lingo, background knowledge, research. Use AI extensively for that. But be careful when it gets more concrete. You can maybe ask for a structure of a cover letter, but never put anything that the AI spits out in front of a hiring manager, because they can smell that from 100 miles away. Again, put yourself in their shoes. They see hundreds of cover letters every day, and you can spot, I'm sure you can spot the texts that have been written by AI after 2 sentences. So don't even bother with that. And ideally, I would just really write it myself completely, and also don't over-optimize it. Don't over-optimize the CV. Because it's humans and they want to see that there's a human, right? And you don't solve that with AI. It might be tempting, but really don't be really careful with AI. It's kind of an arms race. On the other side of the applicants using ChatGPT is the ATS, the applicant tracking system, on the people, on the companies that are hiring. So ATS, you hopefully come across that. It's basically a tool that is scanning applications quickly and in a big number to make sure to be a first line of defense. If you're Google putting out a job, you will get a few thousand applications, and you cannot put like 5 people full-time on that. So they have the system. How can it be solved? How can it be overcome? Not so easy, because it's not a standard that, you know, people know how it works or how it doesn't work. It can be highly individualized per company. They can say, you know, what they want the system to track, what they want, which applications they want to be sorted out and not. But you can assume a few things. Obviously, you have to have the keywords in there, because it's not a super intelligent tool. It's mostly checking for keywords or for some things that the company might put in there, maybe years of experience, language proficiency. So the hard facts that will rule you out or not. So just make sure you have the keywords in there. And there's sites where you can run your CV through ATS tests, basically, and get a score. That is not accurate, because the system doesn't know how the company using the ATS will be handling this. But it's a good like rule of thumb to use that those sites where you can check your CV against an ATS. Another thing we talked about, put yourself in the shoes of the hiring team. The main point was, remember, they have that issue. Look for that issue, identify it, and then tell them why you are the solution to that problem. Then that is getting noticed. Okay, now you're in the interview process. Then comes your research. So show them that you have specific knowledge about the company, about something really up to date, maybe a blog post, a LinkedIn post they did, or if they have products, obviously you need to know the products, and you need to let them know that you know that, because then another 10, 20% of applicants, you are better than those immediately. Don't explain their own company to them. They know that, obviously, but just let shine through that you have done your research. And essentially what I'm trying to picture is, or what I'm looking for, is somebody who already thinks like a team member, right? They're not trying to sell you something, because it's kind of a weird, I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to talk to somebody who's selling me something. I want to picture this person as if they were a team member, would they fit in? And why don't you behave as a team member then? You know, try to find out what the issue is, and then you talk together about solutions. And if in an ideal case, this becomes almost like a working meeting then, where you show they don't need to explain their company to you. You know that you have a running start, and you can, I don't know, talk about the issues at hand. This is, I think, best case. If you get met with unexpected questions or questions you don't know the answer to, or something like this, you know, stick to your basics. The STAR model, for example: situation, task, action, result. You are presented with a situation. You identify the task that needs to be done. You tell them what you would do. And you talk about the expected result. If you haven't done that before, if you have done it before, same thing. Tell them, you know, I was in that situation. The task at hand was this. My action was this, and the result was so. It's essentially storytelling. Again, there's humans on the other side. Humans work well with stories. If you can package stuff in a story, do that, because it makes you be a really kind of human, and they can relate to that. When it's a tough interview, you know, you're gonna have tough interviews where you feel like you know nothing. That is by design, because I see Mirko smiling, because yes, if you put yourself in Mirko's shoes, he has 100 applicants for one job. If you design a question that 100 applicants answer perfectly, you have gained nothing. You have just lost time. You want to weed out as many people as possible. And then when you see maybe 2 people answer it perfectly, but also the 10 that answer it kind of okayish, are still in the race. So main thing is, don't let your hope drop. If you see this is tough, this is by design. Keep your composure, think out loud. Again, they want to know your thought process, even if you come maybe to a wrong result or no result, and keep a confident attitude. And a bonus tip: if you have any influence on the time of your interview, do it after lunch. Why is that?
I didn't know about this. I'm super curious.
This is about one of my favorite books from Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. I can talk a lot about this, but basically what it does is says the human brain has 2 systems. One is the gut feeling, basically, where we make intuitive decisions without thinking. And it uses really little energy, that system. And the other system of the brain is the critical thinking, which uses a lot of energy. So after lunch, you've eaten, all the energy of your body is needed to digest. That means, and it's proven statistically again and again and again, that your system one, your intuitive system, the thing that doesn't think too much, is stronger there. People will take more stuff for granted. They will believe more things without questioning it super critical. They will be more amicable. And they will hold back with the critical questions because the brain doesn't have the energy that it needs to muster to be really, is that really true what he's saying? Or I want to find a hole in that CV. I know there's one.
So send them a pizza before the interview.
It sounds super weird, I know, but it's actually one of my great, strong recommendations to read that book, Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a fascinating insight into how the human brain works and how you can use that to your advantage in a completely white hat way. Nothing sinister about that. I think these are like the main things. The biggest mistakes are don't spray and pray. So don't send out hundreds of interviews and hope something works. Pick your battles, prepare thoroughly, write really personally to the people, write to the problem. Have a good online presence, good online portfolio, and remember to do storytelling as much as you can, thinking out loud, stuff that happened or how you would approach some situations that you haven't done before. So try to reach the human on the other side. That's halfway of the job. Yes.
So we just had a career coaching session that would be sold for, I don't know, hundreds of euros in 10 minutes. So
I was a bit fast, yeah.
but it was great. It was like pure value, no bullshit, just super applicable tips. I honestly, I wouldn't know what to add here. There is a good question that I've seen in the chat, so I'm gonna spotlight it right now, related to all these points, specifically to the last one, which is try to write a personalized message, but in a more general way, try to reach out to people. How do I do networking and trying to get in touch with folks if I'm an introvert? That's a very good one, because a lot of people can relate, I suppose.
Yes. I'm not sure if I can talk from experience. I'm not a super extroverted person. I also wouldn't call myself introvert. So it's kind of, I don't want to act like I have the answer to that situation in general. So what I could imagine is to really focus on things that you are interested in, that you are fascinated about, that you can connect over with people. So make it less about, oh, there's a person I don't know and I have to talk to them. How do I talk to them? Make it about the subject matter. Find something that is that you have in common, which should be fairly obvious because there's a job ad, there's a job, there's an issue, and try to get to talk about the things and problems and situations as fast as possible, and don't maybe concern yourself so much with the fact that this is a human interaction.
That's good. Another thing that I can recommend here, because sometimes very introverted people find it hard to do even the first step, even if they're super passionate about what they want and they love the company and they know everything about the studio and the people working there. They still struggle to send the message because they believe they're kind of disturbing the other person, or they're intruding, or they feel very awkward just sending the message. My piece of advice would be try to detach from the personal environment, or like thinking of, hey, I am talking with another human being. Try to detach from that and try to put yourself in the shoes of outcomes. So again, there is literally nothing wrong the person is going to think about you if you simply ask them a questions in a polite way. And as we said before, you have two outcomes. Number one, they don't respond, or they don't have time. They don't hate you. They don't feel like you are annoying. They just cannot do it, or they have better things to do, so they don't even respond at all, which is very common, sadly, but it happens. Or they do it, which is exactly what you want. So there is no negative outcome if you ask a polite question in a very simple way. So if you remove the fact that you can be seen as a weirdo, why should you be afraid in the first place? right? I know the fear of rejection is hard, but in this case, it's not even rejection. It's like only positive outcomes. That's how I like to frame it.
The great way of thinking. Yes.
Yeah. We have some questions. So shall we try to speed run them? Would you like, or?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Let's go. Okay. Hello, Sobro. Would love to hear if he has a good framework for the opening of the interview, where we have to present ourselves and talk about our career. We cannot touch it, but perhaps you want to go through a little about this.
Opening the interview. Well, in general, you have a time frame. You know how long the interview is, and then from that you can derive how long you will probably have to introduce yourself. I try and keep it as casual as possible in the beginning, because everybody is nervous, and probably even the HR team is a little bit of, you've done that hundreds of times, but you're still meeting a completely new person. So there's no harm in making this comfortable for everybody. One sentence of chit chat, of small talk is completely fine. How you got there, weather, or the last game that you have played, maybe you're just thinking of, or something like this. And then prepare basically 3 to 5 sentences about your career. You can practice that at home. Again, ideally individualized for the job at hand. And just get that out, because it will help you to get rid of your initial nervousness. If you know the first 5 sentences you're going to say after some small talk, this gives you some breathing room, lets the brain adjust in the meantime. A framework of how to talk about that I wouldn't have, but it should be doable for you to talk about your life, your career so far in 3 to 5 sentences, because you can prepare at home for as long as you like, until it feels natural. And bonus point, record yourself saying that and play it back to you until it doesn't feel awkward anymore. It will be awkward, but it is a great practice.
I like it. On my hand, it's tend to see that like in a very simple way. Again, when we're looking for a job, the mantra is always, it's not about me, it's always about them. So when you introduce yourself, of course, you can have like some chit chat and some blah, blah, blah. But when you actually need to, they ask you, okay, tell me more about you and your experience, for example. Always highlight the aspects of your life professionally, but sometimes even personally, that can have a positive impact on the job they're hiring for. So ask yourself, if I were the person hiring me, what this person would find valuable in my experience, in my journey as a professional and as a human being. That's how you present yourself. Always highlight what's relevant, because you have experiences that may be not super relevant, and some of them they are good. There is a framework that helps you with that, and it's the STAR model. We touched it before. I would like to stick with it even in the intro. If you want to know more about STAR, we can go through it super fast, but basically just try to take a look at this article that I can share on Coursera. There we go. Oh my gosh, I hope it was the correct link. So, boom, soft skills. I possess the soft skills, a highly cross-functional, multidisciplinary background in gaming, which should make me a good product manager, although I haven't held the title in the past.
Where's the question?
I feel like it's related to how can I be
yeah.
So basically I have the soft skills and I did the job and other stuff, but I never had the title. Is that enough?
It might be, not painting a too bright, bright picture, as you said in the beginning, Mirko. At the moment, it's tough, and it obviously makes it even tougher for people entering the industry. I feel like product management is actually one of those fields where you can really, really easily transition into gaming after you've been a product manager for a different kind of product before, and sometimes that's even a bonus, because the gaming community is kind of close-knit, and it's not so often that you get input, like say from other industries. And if you say, I was a product manager for yada yada yada, and point out why that would be super beneficial for that company, for that product, then you might have maybe an equal chance to get hired in the second step for that, and find the first job as a product manager of a different industry. Yeah, but I don't want to deter you from trying. It's obviously not impossible to do that. It's the question about the right fit. Some companies are looking for juniors. Then you have to obviously score points with your passion, with your knowledge about the game, the company, like the research that you did, and be open about, obviously, that you haven't done this before, but read the theory, tell them how you would solve those questions that they throw your way. Again, the STAR model works there. And then, yeah, it might work, it might not work. There's no inherent reason why you shouldn't be able to land that job.
Quick take, a little bit unpopular here. To get an interview, what matters the most are skills. To pass the interview, what matters the most are soft skills. Meaning, very rarely you will get an interview because you believe you have the soft skills to do the job. And even if it's true, recruiters won't prioritize candidates with soft skills simply because I don't have any instrument, any tool to assess the soft skills in the first place by reading your CV. The only thing that I can assess is your experience, your competencies, or at least what is written there, which usually comes with the hard skills that I need in order to hire the right person for a job. Because every job is hard skills plus soft skills. So if you're lacking hard skills, it's going to be very hard for you to get an interview for that role simply because you don't meet the requirements hard skill wise that you need. So the only possible answer is get that hard skills, which means education and personal projects, or getting a job in a different industry that has lower bar in terms of hard skills. And then with that experience, you can fill this gap and showcase your soft skills during the interview. But realistically speaking, if you have zero hard skills for a role that you're applying for, it's going to be very hard to get an interview. That's how I see it. Now,
yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, I like it. It's tough, but it's right. Yeah.
It's very like not filtered, but I like to be. I usually do bad cops, good cops, and the guest is always the good cop, and I'm the
Yeah.
bad guy. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they're
yeah.
used to it. Like people, they know. So, okay, we got how, for example, how can I transition from different positions, right? For example, from environment art to tech art. Let's say that you're hiring. I don't know if you have a hired for art roles, perhaps not exactly the niche, but generally speaking, if I want to make the transition, what would you recommend?
Well, get experience beforehand. This is a little bit touching on what you said before. Nobody's going to bet on you that you will be able to do the job, and then they're going to keep their fingers crossed that you will be able to do it. You have to have some proof that you will be able to do this. So some personal projects or some ventures into that direction, something that you can show. Courses that you can do, like build your case beforehand. It's easier to transition within a company and say I want to develop in that direction, and then you have the support of the company ideally, and they will guide you on that way. If you don't have that, educate yourself, connect with other people on forums, maybe also even on LinkedIn. Find people that are into that, and educate yourself is the hardest way you can do it if you don't have somebody who will educate you. And then if you build a nucleus of hard skills in that thing, go and see if it's enough.
Yeah, so that's, in my opinion, here a mix between hard skills, which again means you need to possess them, and in order to do that, either you can educate yourself, courses, education like personal projects, joining jams, anything that can help you getting your hands on that topic that you want to dig in. It's super useful. And networking. So literally, there is no better way to learn how to do stuff from somebody that actually is doing that, what you like. So easier way, simply go asking other people that are doing the job that you want. How did they manage to get it? What piece of advice would you give them to you? And anything that you can learn in terms of improving yourself on the topic. They are the best. They know. So go ask them. That's what I would recommend. There is an interesting one that I'm curious to hear your take on. So be prepared. This is a spicy one. Any tips on negotiating salary when the company doesn't show a range for that job position?
Yeah, that's literally the $1 million question.
Yes.
And there's tons and tons of literature being written on that. So essentially, and there's lots of ways how you can approach it. How would I approach it? I would obviously make up my mind beforehand that, what is a range that is what's my minimum, what's my optimum, what I would be fine with. How do I get there? Research,
Yes.
the websites that disclose some of that. Here might be a good use case also for AI. Ask some of those models to give you some indications. They can be way off. Like if you ask ChatGPT, it's usually a bit higher. And if you give it more context, as much context as possible, those estimates come a bit closer to reality. Where are you situated? What's your circumstances? Stuff like that.
Perplexity is great for that. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I've tried many LLMs. For research purposes, my recommendation is Perplexity. If you have a PayPal account, you can have 1 year of Pro for free. So,
yeah. In Germany, also, if you're with Telekom as a customer, they give you, I think, 1 year Pro.
like, yeah, Perplexity has many partnership deals. So it's very kind of relatively easy to get it for free, and it's very good at researching. So it's better than OpenAI, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then for negotiating, this dives into the topic of negotiating in general of sales. It's essentially at that point sales that you're doing. But that would be a bit too much for that context here. So short answer was, have your limits, upper, lower, do the research, and then go in with something like towards the higher end and see where you land.
I'm going to go with the recruiter answer here. First, then, you actually need to know what's the average salary for that role that you're applying to, given the country you are, given the position and seniority you are, and given even some trends for that specific sector. So you have an idea about what's the market average. Then you need to know how do you position, realistically speaking, beneath that market, right? Like, are you above the average in your opinion in terms of skills, competence, blah blah blah? Are you below? Are you aligned? So you actually know. Then it comes with your financial necessities, right? But these financial necessities are always dependent on what's the market average. Even if the market average is like 3,000 euro per month, and I need for my financial whatever 5,000, but the market average is 3,000, realistically speaking, they will not pay me 5K. So there is a problem. Even say that the salary that a company is willing to pay is very often aligned, of course, to their budget, but realistically to how they perceive you can fix their company problems, because this ability of solving their problems has an economic intrinsic value. So, for example, if I am hiring a salesperson that I perceive can bring me a lot of money, I will be inclined to pay them above market average or stretching my budget for that specific talent, because I'm investing on that thinking that this person can make me a lot of money. So of course I will be inclined to pay them more. And this applies to every position: art, production, design, of course, given the budget that every company has. So it really depends on how much they perceive you're valuable for the job. Now, how can you assess that? Of course, it's every time is different. So it depends on market average, usually company budgets, and also how do you position yourself within this data, right? And a little tip that I can give you as a recruiter: if they ask you what's your financial expectations, try to counter the question by asking them, "Oh, that's actually cool. Before answering, I would be curious to know what would be a range that you would be comfortable with if the person that you're going to hire is extremely good at what you need." This is a good way to counter it, because you first understand. If they tell you the budget, good. If they don't, perhaps they tell you what they consider great. And so all the rest of the interview, you can use that information to position yourself and to tell your experience accordingly. And so having better chances, right?
That's amazing.
Yes.
That is amazing. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Guys, this time I have an hour clock. Sadly, I actually have to go right now because it's 7 p.m. And apologies for the little misunderstanding at the beginning with the time and blah blah. Was a little messed up with the platform and the scheduling, but we kind of managed. If you have additional questions, may I tell them to reach out perhaps on Playhire
Yeah.
or on LinkedIn to you, Frederik?
LinkedIn will
So
be great. Yes, LinkedIn. Just
yes,
connect with me, and then shoot me that question. And actually, I'm gonna take like 20 more seconds to round it up. I want to say something that's important to me. I want
yes,
to tell everybody that's here listening right now or later in the recording. Be aware that each of you is a business owner. That business that you own is your career. No matter if you're aware of that, if you want that or not, you own that business. You have to take care of that business. It doesn't matter where you're currently employed. You're going to switch companies or not. Your career is going to stick and stay with you. No one will take care of you, but you know will remind you to do the things that need to be done to bolster that career. So invest in that, take care of it, do what's needed to be done. Always think ahead of the next job, of next possibility, educate, network, stay up to date with all this kinds of stuff, stay in touch with other people, networking, obviously. That sounds scary, but the sooner you realize, the sooner you will be ahead like of 50% of the competition already, and not just think about it when you need to, because then your job is in danger or you want to switch jobs. Make that a habit. You are a business owner. The business is your career, and then you're going to be really set above a vast majority of the rest of the people.
that's lovely, this line. And it's very, very true. So guys, never stop thinking about it. Even when you're employed, always think ahead because you never know what's gonna happen. Frederik, thanks a lot. It was super valuable. I'm gonna write some posts on LinkedIn from this because I feel like many people will enjoy it. Like the recording will be available on YouTube later on, so everyone can watch it. But man, thanks a lot, and thank you
Thank you so
guys
much,
for being
everybody.
with us.
Thank you, Mirko. Thank
It was
you.
cool. Ciao, ciao.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.